Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Abidah. In this video, I will explain about reported speech and question tag. And for the first, I will explain reported speech. What is the reported speech? Reported speech, or also known as indirect speech, itself is a way to convey what it said, which can be in the form of statement, question, and other expression that change the format of the conversation so that it becomes clearer and more efficient for the reader. Reported speech, or also known as indirect speech, itself is a way to convey what it said, which can be in the form of statement, question, and other expression that change the format of the conversation so that it becomes clearer and more efficient for the reader. Example syntax of reported speech is 1. He said he wanted to order coffee. 2. He asked what he wanted to eat for lunch. To change the tense direct speech into indirect sentence, the following formula is used. 1. Statement. Statement is sentences in the form of statement has changed by adding the word say or said or tell or told so that the sentence is then more flowing and easy to understand. The word that can then be used as a connector. Here's an example. I confessed to visit my uncle. Next month, John said that he planned to travel to his uncle month later. Statement is sentences is the form of statement have changed by adding the words say or said or tell or told so that the sentence is then more flowing and easy to understand. The word that can then be used as a connector. Here's an example. I confessed to visit my uncle next month. John said that he planned to travel to his uncle the month later. Direct speech. I prefer dessert. Reported speech. She said that she likes dessert. I'm living in London. Reported speech. She said that she was living in London. I had taken English lesson before. She had taken English lesson before. 2. Comment, invitation, and request. Imperative sentences can be in the form of order, invitation, or request. This type of indirect speech usually used to or not to. Check out the example below. Don't raise me. She told me not to raise her. Direct speech. Please facilitate me. Reported request. She asked me to help her. Direct request. Might you bring my book tonight? Reported request. She asked me to bring her book that night. Direct request. Would you mind coming early tomorrow? Reported request. She asked me to come back early the following day. Command, invitation, and request. Imperative sentences can be in the form of orders, invitation, or request. This type of indirect speech usually used to or not to. Check out the example below. Don't raise me. She told me not to raise her. Direct speech. Please facilitate me. Reported speech. She asked me to help her. Direct speech. Direct request. Might you bring my book tonight? And reported request. She asked me to bring her book that night. Direct request. Would you mind coming early tomorrow? Reported request. She asked me to come back early the following day. 3. Orders. Yes or no questions. Yes or no question direct speech in the form of yes or no question can be changed to reported speech by adding the word or if or whether or not or not. Here in sample. Do you fancy the dinner? He asked me. if I enjoyed the dinner. So, yes or no question, direct speech in the form of yes or no question can be changed to reported speech by adding the word if or whether or not or not. Here's in Here's an example. Do you fancy the dinner? He asked me if I enjoyed dinner. In addition to requests, orders can also be changed into direct sentence. Here's an example. Here's an example. Attend bed. Report order. He told the child to join the bed. Don't worry. Report order. He told her to not worry. He told me to hurry on time. Report order. He told me to not come late. And for the last for reported speech is question. This question is this interrogative sentence using 5W and 1H. Can be changed into indirect speech by moving the word behind the subject. Here's an example. Where is that post workplace? She asked mine wherever the post office was. Not only statement, question that can be turned into indirect sentence, eventually turn into statement. How to? Where does one live? Reported question. She asked me where I live. Where is Julie? Reported question. She asked me where Julie was. Did you fancy your vacation? Reported question. He wished to understand if I had enjoyed my holiday. Where is that post workplace? Please, reported question. She asked me where the post workplace was. And this is video about explain reported speech, and for the next video I will explain about question tag. What is the question tag? Okay, I will explain. What is the question tag? For a brief meaning, the question tag means a question whose syntax is at the end of the word. For a brief meaning, the question tag means a question whose syntax is at the end of the word. Definition of question text is a short question that is added at the end of a statement to ask for information or seek approval. Like idioms, question texts are parts that are often used in the daily conversation of a native speaker. Simply, this short question turned a statement into a question. How to make it quiet? Easy, by adding a comma at the end of statement and add this short question. Short questions are usually a combination of an auxiliary verb and a pronoun. Keep in mind that the format of the question tag will always follow the to be or to have in the previous statement sentence. Simply that this short question turns a statement into a question. How to make it quiet? Easy, by adding a comma at the end of the statement. At this short question are usually a combination of an auxiliary verb and a pronoun. Keep in mind that the format of the question tag will always follow the to be or to have in the previous statement sentence. There are formula and rules that you need to remember in making question tags. These include when the declarative sentence uses the linking verb be, is, or was, were. The question also uses be. If the statement used a primary auxiliary verb be, do, have, our auxiliary verb will, would, might, can, could, shall, should. Then the question uses the first auxiliary verb if there is more than one. If question sentence uses a main verb other than the linking verb be and without an auxiliary verb, then do, does, or did will be used in in the making the question tag. If the sentence is prohibition or command, then the question begins with will you. If the question sentence uses non-specific subjects such as nobody, everybody, no one, and everyone, then you must include they in the question tag. In the initial sentence is negative, the question tag must be positive. On the other hand, if the initial sentence is positive, the question tag must be positive. Example, the weather is nice outside tonight, isn't it? The weather is nice outside today, isn't it? The clothes aren't coming back, are they? Purpose of question tag. The purpose of using question tag is to ask for information or ask for approval from the other person. When you use it to ask for information, the speaker position doesn't know whether the information is true or false. Intonation question tag. Question tag are emphasized with raising intonation or also known as a raising intonation. On the other hand, when a question is used to seek approval, the speaker believes that the known information is correct, but expects an answer that validates his or her wish. In that situation, the question tag is pronounced without emphasis with a descending intonation or is referred to as falling intonation. This intonation problem applies if you are talking directly to other people. In writing, a question tag have the same form. So, in addition to being careful in writing, you also need to be careful in pronunciation. If the intonation you use is wrong, the other person may be confused and might misunderstand. Terms and pattern of question tag. There are several provisions and patterns that are used when we create question tags, namely 1. Positive sentence, negative tag use. A negative when the sentence is in the form of positive sentence. Example, he is doctor, isn't he? Or this is right, is not he? And example number 2 for positive sentence is you work in a bank, don't you? You work in a bank, don't you? Don't you is do not you. And 2. Negative sentence. Positive tag use the positive tag when the statement is in the form of a negative sentence. Example, you didn't break her leg, did you? And example number 2, she isn't coming, is she? You didn't break her leg, did you? Didn't is did not, and she isn't is not. The first sentence is negative and the next sentence positive. And this is example for negative sentence and positive tag. 3. Imperative sentence. If the sentence is imperative or prohibition and command, the question tag use will you. Example, don't make me upset, will you? Just finish your homework, will you? Example for imperative sentence is don't make me upset, will you? Just finish your homework, will you? And 4. Invitation sentence. If it is an invitation sentence such as let's, then the question tag becomes shall we. Example, let's go to beach, shall we? And example number 2, let's dance, shall we? And number 5, pay attention to the use of have. Even the statement there is have or has plus verb 3, it means the present perfect. Have function as an auxiliary verb, so the question tag becomes haven't or hasn't plus subject. However, if what is meant by have, which means to have, then the question tag becomes done or doesn't plus subject because have function as a verb. Example, the students have learned Japan, haven't they? You have the cats, don't you? And number 6, pay attention to the subject. The subject nobody, no one, somebody, and someone are used as they. If the question tag well, nothing, and everything becomes it. It should also be noted that the use of no means negative, so the tag becomes positive. For example, nobody finished the homework today. Example number 2, everything looks different, doesn't it? And that for the last explain about question tag. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.